jemanden, den ich auch als Referent auf einer Veranstaltung, auf einer Kunstveranstaltung kennengelernt habe.
We will now have a speaker that I met on a workshop. Tom Fritz he got my attention because on the one hand he's a scientist
und auf der anderen Seite auch selbst Künstler. Und seine Studien gehen über Musik und Neurokognition. Das hört sich kompliziert an, ist auch
Sounds really
kompliziert,
complex, is complex, but he has
zustande gebracht, die mich so fasziniert haben.
He attained very beautiful results in a very different way from what Anke did. But I'm really happy that he is with us today. He believes that music therapy is really right before a great breakthrough. That this breakthrough will be about the combination of neuroscience, neurocognition and music, and that it will open a whole new field. He has developed a unique new product, which is a combination from music, producing music and fitness training, which has an amazing effect. He has used it and developed it and tested it on Alzheimer's patients, on drug addicts, on people from all venues of life with other issues. He will talk about his own path, about intuition, music and neuroscience are interrelated, and he will show his results to us. Welcome, Tom. Are you here? Okay, here we go. For the English speakers, I am switching channels because the speaker will speak in English.
Vielen Dank, dass Sie alle zu meinem Vortrag gekommen sind. Ich werde Ihnen heute quasi über zwei Reisen berichten. Ja? Eine Reise.
Okay, he wanted to speak in English, but he doesn't. So, we will do a journey through the whole of life. All of life will work with musical interventions in every phase of life. And it's a very personal journey, a musical, ethnological journey. I will say more about this later. Music can be effective at every stage of life, even before birth. At the moment of birth, the baby prefers the music it has heard in the mother's womb. And we can, babies react to music that they have heard in the womb. This is how you can test this preference. But the point is that, well, I'm going to say a few words about every stage of life. We did an experiment with pregnant women who listened to music. And the music was manipulated in different ways, like cacophonic versions, so they were uncomfortable to listen to or to play it backwards. And what we see here is the blood pressure, the continuous blood pressure of participants who were listening to these stimuli. Here, once again, the blood pressure of pregnant women. What we see here, what is essential here, is that the pattern how the pregnant women react is exactly the same, but it's much stronger, about 3 times stronger. We can interpret this in a way, for example, that this physical state with that the physical state is being shared with the unborn child, so that the unborn child reacts on musical input, which can be prosodic sounds like lyrics, and the child receives this information. There is a musical kindergarten in Berlin, where we work with smallest children who do not have like professional musicians as parents, but we offer them a musical immersive experience so they can learn maybe in an intuitive way, find a way into music. Of course, music plays an important role throughout life. And a very important function of music is that it offers us a broad range of experiences, intense experiences, joyful experiences. And in the beginning, when we started to study emotions, we were asking ourselves, how can we study emotion? So they took first, like fear. It was easier to condition people to fear. So in the first place, scientists were examining fear. We heard about the amygdala. So we started, as scientists, we started to explore emotion step by step, starting by fear. And music was an important key factor in these studies. People can have live very strong experiences which we can measure with a computer tomograph. We combine current spin tomographs with music, and we measure where does what happen in the brain and which neurotransmitter systems do convey these impulses, this information. Of course, it is a long story, and we are just right at the beginning. What happens in the brain under the influence of music and other stimuli? I will not talk much further about these studies, but just a short note at the side. We are examining neurotransmitters like dopamine, and we found that they are connected with strong positive emotions. I want to show you a brief video why it is so important. Here we have a Parkinson patient who is just switching on the camera and goes back to his chair. He goes back and turns on the MP3 player. He put this on YouTube. It was a self-experiment. You see his movements, these typical freezing reactions. Here, for example, this is not only true for or characteristic for Parkinson's, but dopamine has an influence on a whole series of motoric functions. It has a facilitating influence on motoric functions. So he just makes it to the MP3 player. Well, you can discuss about taste, but musical taste, but you see, this person, this man, releases through the music energies in his body that were frozen before. We could keep on watching, but we'll go on. We have another example here. Even in autumn, dopamine can stimulate movement, motion. So that's the way it should be. I'm involved in different projects where we do studies in seniors' homes. If we get these kind of reactions, it's always good. So now, even during the winter phase of life, dementia, for example, music has a tremendous effect. The woman you saw right at the beginning is Henry's daughter. It's a movie with Oliver Sacks, who passed away, unfortunately. They are playing music, the favorite music of this Alzheimer's patient, and Oliver Sacks is talking. And we'll just watch what happens. He cannot remember his own daughter, and he doesn't remember his name.
Unresponsive and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah.
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now? Okay. Let's try your music, okay?
Sprech gerade auf Deutsch die ganze Zeit oder auf Englisch? Oh Mann, ich wollte ja eigentlich auf Englisch sprechen. Aber ist okay so? Tut mir so leid.
I'm so sorry, I thought I was speaking in English all the time, but I just realized that I was speaking in German.
And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression. His eyes open wide. He starts to sing, to rock, and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
So it has a really activating effect on him. He starts moving his arms.
I'm going to give it back to you. Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off,
Also der Effekt hört nicht auf, wenn die Kopfhörer weggenommen werden. Also ist diese Musik, er hört seine Lieblingsmusik, wird dadurch belebt.
Jetzt wird ein kurzes Interview.
Magst du Musik? Ja, ich bin verrückt nach Musik. Wunderschöne Musik. Mochtest du Musik, als du jung warst? Ja, ich bin zum Tanz gegangen und... Was war deine Lieblingsmusik, als du jung warst? Captain Calloway was meine Lieblingsband.
Kann er sich noch erinnern, aber an den Namen
He can still remember Cat Calloway, this band, but he can't remember his daughter or her name. And we find this over and over again with people who have dementia or suffering from Alzheimer's, that they still remember music even when they have lost everything else, like all other memories. We did our own studies on this subject, and I just want to briefly show you that we have this zone here, which we can measure with high-resolution tomography. It is really important for the coding of long-time music memory. We compared it to other types of memory,
legen dieses Areal jetzt mal rein in Karten
So,
von Alzheimer-Patienten, wo man verschiedene Aspekte des
we
Fortschritts der
do
Krankheit sieht.
transfer this
Und sieht
zone
also dieses
to a brain
Areal
of an
ist tatsächlich,
Alzheimer's
hat
patient,
besonders
and we see
wenig
this zone here,
Absterben der
that it
Grauen
has
Zellen, hat besonders wenig auch
extremely
Runterfahren
little,
des Metabolismus.
extremely few dying
Und
gray
hat aber
brain
bereits,
cells, nerve cells,
so eine Plaquebildung, die
but it has
aber
already a
besonders früh in dieser
plaque
Krankheit
like
anfängt.
calcification, which starts
Ich
at
will
early
jetzt
stages of
nachdem
this
wir quasi
sickness.
diese verschiedenen Stadien des Lebens eines Menschen durchgegangen sind und ich mal kurz erläutern wollte, wo wir überall auch versuchen, etwas zu machen, will ich ganz kurz was über eine persönliche Reise erzählen.
I want to
Nämlich nach
insert just a moment a few words on a personal journey to Africa, to Chad, Cameroon, into the mountains, to the Mafa people. It's quite a big tribe. They even have a town, but a part of the Mafa people, they live very, very remotely, somewhere up in the mountains. You only get there through the rivers when they're during the droughts, when they're dried out. They live there, we could say, in an idyllic place, but with a series of endemic sicknesses. This means that even if you go there vaccinated and you still get sick. I got malaria and typhus and salmonella and a cough, bronchitis, a whole series of sicknesses that I picked up. But of course I had my medication, so it was okay. People there live in a very archaic mode, like in the Iron Age. But it was extremely interesting from a musical perspective because I looked for the smallest common thing in music. And I was, for example, the Mafa people use to make music these iron pipes. So the big one is about 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters in size, and the small one about 10 centimeters. And the peculiar thing about those flutes is that they are decorated with some rubber band that someone put on, but they're made of iron, and they're forged in a way that we did during the medieval ages. And the head of this flute is made of wax and clay. And it sounds like this when they play it. For the first 3 weeks when I was there, and no one wanted to do any experiments with me because they were waiting, they wanted to know who I am, and they found it very strange that I was sitting in my little space with my machines. Strange guy. So 80% of people there do something that we would identify as magic, but those are anecdotes. I could talk for days about this, but that's not the point I want to make here. So during the first 3 weeks, I was thinking about how should I explain this to my institute when I get back and have no results. So I took part in those music rituals with these pipes and flutes. So this was good. By the time they saw me playing the flute, they thought he can't be that dangerous after all. So he can't be too powerful a magician. Listening to the tones that he plays. But I must say that to play this flute is nothing trivial at all. Not only because they look special. Every flute just makes one tone, that's not a problem. But the power that you need to blow into the pipes is tremendous. So that's the power you need to blow into the big one to produce a sound. With the small one, it's a different rhythm of breath. So they do this for hours and hours. So after a while, you get the impression of, whoa, I'm about to faint. But the muffas, they exchange pipes, the flutes with each other. There is no discussion. They never say, I want to keep my flute. So they have their little system, kind of a structure, who gets which flute at what time. And sometimes they make kind of festivals where groups of different villages come and they play music for each other and in a kind of a competition, and they're playing throughout the night. And so they run around in a circle very fast. Sometimes you have 2 and 3 in the center who are in competition with each other. So if you do not play well and the spirits don't like how you play the flute, it can be that you have to die. But it has to do with malaria and the monsoon right before, so they kind of explain their death with their lack of being good at playing the flute. But this is just a side remark. But what they get into is kind of a trance state, a musical euphoria, like into a blissful state by playing those flutes. When I came back to Germany, this really occupied me, this immersive, extreme, physical, powerful, and exhausting experience. Then I thought, well, in our Western Hemisphere, we have drumming or electric guitar, but this is not exhausting. And it looks like immersion, but it's not really immersion. But our instruments here, they are designed to produce sound without being exhaustive. But the Maffa play musical instruments in a way that they get really exhausted, physically exhausted, and they get into a state of trance and euphoria. I tried to kind of do this with 2 friends where I knew we don't need to have a medical doctor on board. We used fitness devices, machines, and I will show you data on this experiment. But before, I want to show you a video so you can understand what I say. We play with patients, or we do motions, we do movements in a way with music together. So these are still archaic versions of these tests. Okay, so by doing these motions, these movements, you can play music. You generate music. Someone else is using this device here, very trivial rhythms and sounds. This is a little bit embarrassing here, because that's me. We have two sensors, one in the back and one at front. You can do these motions in better ways from a physiological perspective too. And now we put it all together. They do the same thing as before, but we do it together. That's so nice to get a hand when it gets so embarrassing. So the interesting thing that we examined here, that we found, was that those people were not sportsmen. They are not musicians, but they come into the room. They just choose one of those machines, and we do this for 6 minutes or 12 minutes, and then we measure certain effects. After 10 minutes we find something like a runner's high, but these are not sportsmen, not people who are used to running or jogging or whatever. So after 10 minutes they get into this runner's high. This means that you have a better mood, much better mood, and this effect keeps for 1 hour to 2. It lasts for 1 hour to 2 hours. This goes along with participants who did this work. So when we compare their efforts to normal workout at the fitness center, when you just listen to the music passively, when you play the music yourself, your subjective experience of the effort is just half as high, half as intense as if you are just working out, doing the same thing in a fitness center. So we have a very high indication for endorphins being released, which results, among other, in a much higher level of pain resistance. So, for example, we had participants put their hands into ice water, and it takes much longer until they say, now it's getting too cold. Of course, this is, for example, interesting for people, not only for athletes, competitive athletes, but also with people who have pain issues. So we study brain plasticity and the nerve growth factors, BDNF. This is a substance which regenerates and reproduces nerve cells, renews nerve cells. And this gets really boosted. This is why in any kind of rehabilitation there are different methods which are used, and then but sport is like always a part of it, because sports is like always the best medicine. It's as good as any other method after a stroke. So doing sports is always highly effective. One of the reasons for that is that this brain plasticity is being stimulated strongly through physical movement as we're doing sports. And if we take music on board, then it gets even more effective. So what I created, this program is called Gymin. It's a combination of gym and jamming. So we studied with chronic patients with chronic pains, and we noticed that their pain levels were lowering. We start working with refugees, among others. I'm doing a lot of studies. There's still so much to explore. So back to the patients with chronic pain. We are exploring how do these chronic pains emerge, where do they come from? In these so-called Western developed countries, we develop chronic, like almost everybody develops chronic pain at some point, some stage of his or her life. And if we have a fear, if you're afraid of pain, or if we have chronic pain somewhere in our body, excuse me, we start compensating. And our body structure just changes because we want to avoid feeling this pain. We regularly observe that participants come to us and say, well, after a workshop, for example, I don't know if this drum and bass music could fit to my grandfather, but the grandfather, when he sits down, he loves it anyway. He's having fun. This is our observation over and over again, that when participants can play music, generate music by themselves, they like it, even if it's heavy metal, even if it's drum and bass. It's as soon as they generate it themselves, they're having fun. Even though they would never listen to this type of music. Here we went into a drug rehab clinic with people who were crystal meth and heroin dependent drug addicts. We went into jail actually, and half of the participants, they had ADHS2. This was a really, really fascinating experience, because those were participants, when they get into the room, with the first impression is, wow, there's not a single drop of love left in those people, and you think of yourself, you're such a tolerant people, but still it's you feel uncomfortable when they come into the room. So we got into the clinic and they welcomed us, but and then they say, we're sorry, but someone just consumed drugs, and it could be that people are aggressive, like participants are aggressive, maybe they're gonna beat them up, like it's a really, really bad mood here, but there was just a little miracle happened. So first they came in, they sat down on this fitness machine, they said, wow, yeah, I can do this. And they sit down, they start using it, and they say, wow, that's me! How cool is that? I'm producing this music. After 5 minutes, they're starting to make jokes. Okay, come on, and talking to each other and saying, hey, this is our music, we're playing music together, so go for it, man. So you see, and the aggression it dropped off. It just totally dropped away. So it raises the motivation extremely, that under normal circumstances you would stop because it gets strainful. But if you're playing together with others, you won't stop. After 10 to 20 seconds, you totally forget that you were just actually exhausted, and you just go on because the others are still going and you want to be part of it. So you go beyond your limits, and then you start producing and releasing endorphins, and you go beyond your limits. I was a bit worried that this endorphin release could have negative effects on these ex-drug addicts, but this wasn't the case. So the pressure to consume went down and not up, and many of those actually said that this could help them to get off consuming drugs. So we are talking here about correlations. We found several correlations. For example, a few participants told us afterwards, I would like to have a recording of this. And then I asked, who wants one? So half of the participants raised their hands. 1 week later, we went there to make experiments. And what was interesting is that when they listened to the music that they had produced, their mood raised, that a much better, a much lighter mood. So there was a correlation, definitely it's like a successful experience for the participants who listened to the music that they had produced. We could also find that gymming was boosting the immune system, and we had great success in rehab of strokes. Just really small, short videos with Alzheimer's patients who don't remember who they are themselves, but who intuitively and instinctively use it and do it. Having a good time, having a fun time together. For example, here we have, one does the rhythm, the other the banjo, which you can't hear so well now. And now, the very last video. This is a patient, a coma patient in a clinic, a patient with minimal consciousness. You can't talk to anymore. Her eyes are open, but she doesn't react. A sensor was put to her finger, and the sensor was moved passively before. And then she started moving her finger, and half of the nurses and doctors came to watch in amazement. And the sensor was attached to her toe afterwards. So she started playing music, she started moving her toe. So these are millimeters, like millimeters of motion through which she is producing these sounds. And so this is how we developed this tool, Jimin, and we're caring for bringing this out into the world, offering it to rehab centers, having people who use this, and we would like to spread it. So if someone of you has an idea for a certain rehab clinic or for drug addicts rehab clinic, I'd be happy for feedback. Thank you very much for your attention. We are setting up for the podium panel discussion. Is there any last words on intuition? Yes, of course. Afterwards, during the coffee or tea break, before my shuttle comes to pick me up, there is, before the workshops, you can use it, you can try this. I have a small mobile system, room 5 at the back. You can try this if you want. After the break, during the break. Okay, music and intuition. When we look at these studies and your way of accessing it, what is your personal access to intuition? Your personal approach? Well, if you're a scientist, then you come across very hard times, hard moments. You need a lot of discipline. You get to deal with many people who are less likely to interact socially, which is a side effect of a job when you're sitting in front of a computer all the time. So for me it was always a good possibility to, when I had an idea, to be creative through a kind of shotgun method, because at the same time when I did my PhD, I started studies of music studies. So my boss at the Max Planck Institute before, it was not funny. He's a really serious guy. But still, I couldn't tell the Max Planck Institute I'd like to have a day off for my art, to build installations and to draw. This is why I had started a study of arts, and then I could say, well, I have other duties for my studies, and I need 1 or 2 days off a week, and that worked. And interestingly, from these experimental artistic ideas and efforts on conventional experimental approaches emerged or developed. Let's say I could use my own artistic... I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you. Maybe just one last sentence, what you want to convey, what you want to pass on to us, to take along. Well, I was sitting in front of this questionnaire that we received. What is intuition? What is intuition for you? And I couldn't reply to these questions immediately. Well, intuition always has a taste of destiny, but destiny does walk very dark path. So sometimes you have to really go against it. Yes, well, the German history is the best example for it. But nevertheless, for me personally, intuition is to try to do the right thing. Intuition is do the right thing anyway. Try to do the right thing anyway. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom. Wow, so fresh. It's so good to have this kind of scientists, so beautiful, so open for life, and still a hardcore scientist who still knows that we can go beyond our limitations. And I found him so fresh when I saw him, and I thought he just needed to come. So heartfelt thanks to you, Tom, for coming here.